So tokenism was definitely a large challenge. Our approach to this issue was that we made sure that in all the work that we do, the most important coherence lens we use is the impact on the furthest behind. So meaning that no policy should be decided by any representative in Fiji on a national level, on a regional level, or even an international level, without the full and direct participation of members of the group affected by that policy. So what we do is we ensure that the most vulnerable and young people are not only consulted, but they are part of the development, implementation, and the monitoring process. So we build and strengthen capacities of youth to lead their own activities and participate as equitable partners with adults. We have managed to create visibility and respect for youth voices by bringing them to the forefront together with that of women, LGBTQI community, and also those with disabilities and rural youth.
Hello everyone, my name is Din Long and welcome to the podcast Lifeline. In this podcast, I will interview people who are having a positive impact in their community and have a strong message that deserves to be shared. We will dive deeper into their journey becoming a change maker, and hopefully you can take away some insights for your own journey. And please do subscribe to Lifeline on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or any platform that you are using. And also you can share this episode with your friends if you like it. It's really what helps me the most. In today's episode, you will be meeting Raid, who is known as the plastic guy in Fiji for all the impact that he's having with Precious Plastic Fiji, the social enterprise that he co-founded. He's also a youth advocate with the Alliance for Future Generations, a climate activist with 350.org Fiji, and was a proud Fiji youth representative for the COP24 in Poland. We discuss how he got into all these national, regional, and even international networks, and how he's leveraging on them to engage the youth in Fiji and to make a difference. Raid shares why his life is all about environmental protection and social justice, and all the things that made him connect to his own power of action.
Bola Vinaka.
Okay, Bola Vinaka. Raid, I'm so happy to speak to you on Lifeline, to have you on Lifeline today. For the story, so I always remind a bit how I know the people. So for the story, we're sitting next to each other in the UNESCA building in Bangkok for the, the Asia Pacific Climate Week, for the panel of Peace Boat, and we were speaking about, I think, youth engagement and the SDGs. And yeah, we were sitting next to each other.
Yes. You were the coolest guy in the room.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
You were the coolest guy. Then we met again in Guangzhou. So you went for this cool conference about youth and SDG again. And yeah, I've been following everything that you have done, that you are doing in Fiji and Pacific Islands. So yeah, I mean, we'll come back to this, but everything about climate, plastic waste, and your TED Talk, your podcast. I've stalked you a lot this week, everything I could find. Super happy to have you. And yeah, start like if you want to introduce yourself, anything that comes to your mind.
Okay, Bula Vinaka to all the listeners. My name is Raid Roshanali, and I'm tuning in from the beautiful island of Fiji. I'm an environmental and youth activist, currently the national coordinator for Precious Plastic Fiji, volunteer at WWF Pacific. I'm a committee member at 350 Fiji as well, and a founding member of the Alliance for Future Generations Fiji. This is Fiji's biggest youth-led climate change and sustainable development movement. I work to mobilize, engage, empower, and inspire young people in becoming leaders of positive change.
Cool, thank you, Raid. I think that's a super powerful way to introduce yourself. But before we come back to all this serious stuff, I wanted to ask you a random question I just thought about. How is there a way to recognize Fijian people? Like if you walk around in the street, is there a way to recognize people from Fiji? Because I think women, they have this flower, right? in the head?
When you say Fijian people, because it's a common identity, it's a nationality. So even Fijians of Indian descent would be called Fijians here. But if you're referring to the indigenous people who are called the Itoke, then I suppose, uh, yeah, I mean, a flower signifies their relationship status, or at least this is what I've been told. So if a female puts a flower on the right hand side, that means she's single. And if it's on the left hand side, that means she's married. But yeah, I mean, if you want to recognize a Fijian, the easiest way is to just see the Bula smile.
Okay, so Fijian, they have a big smile.
Big smile.
Okay. Also, I think we have one common point, which is our names mean something like really awesome.
Oh, wow.
My name means Temple of the Dragon.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That makes so much sense.
And you, it's even better, right? It was leader.
Yeah, enlightening leader.
Okay, so now we have Temple of the Dragon and Enlightening Leader, so that's great. Cool. Yeah, no, I wanted, so I think it's I'm really impressed, with all the things that you've been doing with 350, with Alliance for Future Generation, with Precious Plastic and WWF. I was always wondering how do you like, how is your time divided between these four things?
That's a good question. So when you're part of so many organizations, time management becomes fundamental. So because Precious Plastic Fiji is my own social enterprise, that's where my focus lies. And because I was one of the founding members for Alliance for Future Generations, I sort of divide my work between Precious Plastic and Alliance for Future Generations. But the good thing is that because I'm part of both of the organizations, I usually work in partnership with AFG, or somehow like leverage of my the different networks that I'm part of. With regards to volunteerism with WWF Pacific, I'm not as much engaged at the moment, but I do support the organizing committee when they need support.
So we were supposed to have this interview 2 days ago, but you had to, actually you went to do some emergency action, right?
I spent 2 days in Ba. That's one of the rural towns in Fiji. And we were called because a family was in desperate need for food supplies, and another family was in desperate need for diapers, adult diapers, and like all of these like basic support items. So I spent 2 days in Ba, and I came back home last night, and it was really, I don't even know how to put this into words, but I came back home last night, had a warm shower, and got in my bed. And I was looking up at the ceiling, and I just started crying. And it's weird because I don't usually talk about these things, but because it's still so fresh, I just can't help myself. I started crying out of guilt at how ungrateful I have been, despite the luxuries that I'm drowning in. At how easy my life actually is compared to so many in my own country, whose experience I have become so disconnected from. And I was like, I was just thinking about this, that I'm fortunate enough to even have a blanket for cold nights and a fan for hot ones. And I was crying because I was privileged to even have a space to call my own room within this house. Because I decided to accompany my mom to Ba to assist in this social work. And my mom always goes out of her way and comfort zone to identify families who are extremely rural and in remote areas, who are often neglected during relief and charity efforts carried out by the big organizations. So needless to say, it was a deeply, deeply humbling experience. For example, I met a woman, a mother of 3, who just came back home from cutting and loading sugarcane in a truck, and only to find her taking care of her mom, who was completely bedridden. And I met another couple who were involved in a car accident a few years back, from which they miraculously survived, despite being 70% burned. And this led to them becoming permanently deformed and disabled. But they kept smiling and remained grateful. That image is like still stuck to my head. And I also met a single mom with 5 children who lived in a shack, and their daughter skipped school on the day that we visited because she was cleaning tamarind to sell at the market just so that they could survive. These are only a few stories among so many, and I'm lost for words as I'm still processing my experience. But I know that I don't want to live a life that disconnects me from those in real need. That disconnects me from my own privilege, and I've sort of realized that this is what gives my life meaning.
Did you meet these communities before? Was it the first time?
No, it's the first time because it was really remote, really remote.
Did you and your mom go there because there was a specific, I don't know, natural disaster, or are these communities who always live in this situation?
I think these communities live in this situation, but the situation has been exacerbated because of COVID-19. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and food security has become a big issue here in Fiji, even financial security. So things have really started impacting them on a on a on a on a much detrimental level.
I see. And okay, so you're still processing the information. Is it a feeling that, I guess it's the first time you have this kind of feeling, or this, would you say it's some sort of aha moment?
Yeah, humbling moment. It's not the first time, but it's just that because I'm staying in an urban area, and then I work with all these big organizations, and we do a lot of groundwork in communities as well. But like when we engage within urban areas and urban cycles and the peri-urban areas, we sort of start forgetting and get disconnected from people who are like in extremely rural places and rural areas, and their lived reality. So this was for me, I think, a bit of a wake-up call. I do work with rural communities, but this was the first time to go this rural.
Okay. Do you think there is even more rural than what you have seen yesterday?
Oh yeah, definitely. The road kept going, so we will make more trips in future and assist more families with their needs.
Did you grow up in the urban area?
Yeah.
So I ask that because one key moment of your life is this KFC chicken story when you were 10 years old. But it was also from your mom, right? And now you just shared something that also happened with your mom. So I feel like she was a really important part of you growing up.
She still is. She still is a very important part. So KFC, the reason why that story had an impact on me was because my mom said something. She said that if you don't, after she caught me littering, she asked me to collect my trash. And then she told me that if I don't respect the land will never respect me. And that's something that I was too young to even understand, like at that age, what it meant. But as I grew up, slowly, like that statement kept sinking in, and I kept understanding the deeper, profound meaning to it. Because in Fiji, we call the land as vanua, and vanua doesn't just apply to land. Vanua is an all-encompassing term, which means land, its people, and its culture. And that's why I couldn't understand, like, how will land respect me? Like it's a like it's not a human being. Like, what does land have to do with respect? But as I grew up, so that's something that sort of solidified the respect that I have towards the land. And when I say and the Vanua incorporates the people and the culture. And that sort of ties in with karma. Like what you do is what you get back.
After this sentence that marked you, would you be able to identify, around what age you were able to make sense of this sentence and why?
Probably around So it's a gradual process. I don't think it was just like one point where like suddenly like, like, aha, it makes sense now. Like, like gradually, like through experiences that I kept having in life, just the meaning kept unfolding. And, like even now, I would say to this day, I would say that I'm still learning, like the wisdom behind a statement as powerful as that.
Mm. You studied environmental sciences, right?
Yes.
Did you always know that you wanted to study that?
Oh, no, no. Okay, so um, I this me my mom saying that led me to choose for me to study environmental science as my undergraduate degree. And as a result of that, I started to actively volunteer in a lot of environmental organizations. That's when I first joined WWF and participated in cleanup campaigns. And also started, I think that's when we started it, or in 2018, to set up the Alliance for Future Generations as well. And because I mean, a lot of people come for the cleanup campaigns, and nobody can doubt their efforts, the efforts that they put in towards this regular activity. I always felt that such volunteer cleanups were not the best way to tackle plastic pollution, especially because it was still choking our rivers and our mangrove ecosystems, destroying beautiful beaches that we have here, and also impacting marine life. We, as part of Alliance for Future Generations, we would carry out monthly mangrove planting as well. And when we go back to monitor on the growth of our mangroves, we would see a lot of them dead because of fishing lines that were stuck to it. And these fishing lines are not necessarily the ones that are polluted by the people living here, but they are brought in through the tide from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And so that's how pollution keeps coming to our shores, even though we keep cleaning up the waste from our shorelines. Mm. And so this practice of addressing the symptom and not the cause kept bothering me, because the tide kept coming in and depositing more plastic cups, bottles, straws, bags, and fishing equipment. And what we essentially did was pick up plastic pollution from one area and then send to another area, which was a landfill, where it takes over 1,000 years for plastic to degrade. And this is what made me convinced that simple cleanup campaigns were not the answer. They were only a temporary solution. As a result of this, I read on many articles, and it made me convinced that there was no point in mopping the floor until we turn off the tap. And that's what led me to start up Precious Plastic Fiji.
So, well, yeah, I really want to come back on that. But before, so you started uni at 18, I guess, around 18. Your volunteerism with WWF, it was during the same period?
Yes.
Okay, so it's WWF. It's like your first action towards climate and environment in the timeline.
Not really, because so I'll tell you about a bit about my childhood. I grew up in Nandi, which is the western part of Viti Levu. And because Fiji is a country that is continually subject to devastating cyclones and floods, growing up, I had direct exposure to various forms of adverse environmental impacts within my island nation of Fiji. And this was sort of my key impetus to becoming a youth volunteer from a very young age. My mom was the president for Seroptimus International, and she would go out and carry out projects in the communities, and I would always go with her as a young person to assist her with these sort of campaigns. And so when I first started volunteering with my mom, I think I was like around the same age, like close to like 12, 13 years old. So we had a massive flood in Fiji, and I wanted to go out and help the communities that were affected by this flooding. And I felt helpless because we didn't have the necessary funds to carry out our work, especially relief efforts. And even after approaching many avenues, our request would be rejected. Despite the setbacks, I was able to effectively mobilize overseas family support by way of donations for food packs to be given to affected victims. So my mom's group and we worked with communities to provide warm clothes and beddings to those affected. We also visited low-lying villages, example Namotomoto village in Nandi, and advised them on the need for disaster preparedness. So supporting recovery efforts in my community was a learning experience for me on how relationship and networking with organizations can enable for more effective forms of support to vulnerable communities. And it also taught me that money is not always a necessity in bringing about change, that it's willpower and effort. So I would say that this was the beginning.
Because it's crazy that you said 12, 13. Is it a normal thing for Fiji youth to do that?
I mean, at that age, I don't think so, but because of how severe our cyclones and our natural disasters are becoming now, and with the issue of sea level rise, I think it's become a more commonplace amongst the youth of today to be actively participating in this sort of disaster resilience work and relief efforts.
Okay, so yes, that's how you started. No, I mean, it's. Well, I mean, really, I think it's impressive to do that at such a young age. At that age, I was just playing Warcraft.
So, oh my god.
Okay, so. Okay, no, I start to understand a bit like the progression from this impactful sentence at 10 years old. Then you started to lead some community movement after the floods, raising money from overseas family. Awesome. Okay, so then you went to uni, studied environmental sciences. Started to volunteer for WWF, and while you were doing the beach cleanups, were you like you said you had a feeling? Okay, we are just doing an action on the symptoms, but not on the root cause. Were you the only one to think that way?
I mean, that like even if people even if I shared this with my friends, they would agree, but they didn't think that they had the capacity to do something more as young people. Like they felt so unempowered to do something more. But then I couldn't engage any further with doing something because I told you that I went online. I was reading up on solutions and like how we can address this problem, and then that's when I introduced this idea to my friends, and some of them came on board. Some of them thought we couldn't do it, and it was too far-fetched of an idea. But I said, I kept thinking, like, if I don't at least make an effort, then what's the point?
How did you get to have this mindset?
That's a good question. A solution-driven mindset.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, it's because of my religion, and I shared this on my earlier podcast as well. Because I grew up in a religious household, and in the words of our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said that the cure to ignorance is to question. And that's set in my mind, that statement by our Prophet. And I had that lens. Growing up, I had that lens towards everything. So I would always question, like if something happened in a certain way, I would question why. And this is why I think one of the reasons also why I studied science, because science is a quest for knowledge in like natural sciences. You want to figure out the why and how and what. So that's I think that's something that formed my solution-driven mindset, because I kept questioning why, and then from that why, I would figure out how to come to terms with it, or to make it better, or to further progress anything. And this was a bit problematic at home as well, because I'm just going to be honest, because sometimes our parents would tell you like, don't do this, don't do that, and I question then why, and then they would try to explain to me, but then I would like start associating, but you did this there, you did this there, and that would become problematic for my parents. But yeah,
Like rebellious kid.
yeah, rebellious. But I mean, if I had a child who would question me, I would encourage that. I don't know. I'm just saying that now. Let's see when I have a kid how things are.
You'll come back when you have a kid
Yeah.
in 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe, no, I guess probably before.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so actually, so it's when you did all this research on the internet that you found the idea of precious plastic.
No, I found out the idea that young people can be advocates for change, powerful. They can be creators of powerful ideas that tackle all sorts of issues throughout the world, and plastic pollution was one of them. The idea for precious plastic was, in particular, was introduced to me by my friend, an international student from Australia. She came to Fiji and she introduced this idea to us when we were studying at the University of the South Pacific. And so my friends and I said, like we were looking for a solution, and we just, like everything just fit in. Like, yeah, why not? It wasn't initially linked to the idea of plastic waste in the oceans, but because that was something at the back of my mind and I was looking for a solution for that, like everything just fell into place. I thought, like, what better way to align these two ideas than precious plastic. So what precious plastic essentially does is that, so what we do now with precious plastic is that we collect plastic waste that ends up in the environment and in the ocean, and use that to upcycle it and create a new product that is then put back into the economy, contributing to its circular economy.
What kind of products?
Oh, so products are part of our projects. So we have partnered with organizations because it's a non-profit organization. We localized the movement in Fiji and made it into a social enterprise. And the reason for this was so that we can sustain our operations by making it a social enterprise. And we carry out projects involving partnerships with various organizations. One organization is Fiji Surfers Association. So with them, we organize cleanup campaigns in the coral coast of Fiji. And we collect the plastic bottles, sort it out, clean it up, and shred it and upcycle it to make plastic fins that they then buy from us to use with their surfboards. And we also are in the process of research and development of creation for items for humanitarian applications. And we are doing this in partnership with Field Ready, which is a US-based NGO in Fiji. And this includes creation of things for people with disabilities, for example, braille keyboards, straw holders with metal straws, and wheelchair fittings. And all of these are made from upcycled plastic waste.
Okay, so you don't have like standard products, but you would like partner with an organization and define with them what kind of products they need.
We do have standard products that we sell on a larger scale. This is because we develop metal molds for specific products, and then it makes the creation of multiple products easier. For example, one of our standard products is a plastic coaster, which takes about 10 plastic bottles to make. And then we supply, we are based in the West, and the Western area of Fiji is where most of the hotels and resorts are located. And they are one of the biggest contributors to plastic, one of the biggest producers of plastic waste. in the country. So as part of their CSR, what we do now is we collect the plastic waste off of them, use that plastic waste to create plastic coasters and other products that they require, and then sell it back to them at a retail price.
Okay.
To use at their resorts and hotels.
And so, because you need so I'm wondering, this Australian student came. She introduced the idea of precious plastic, and it was just perfect for you at that time. And then, how do you start? Because I guess you need. What is the first thing you did after having this idea?
Okay, so that idea, I mean, even though it was still introduced, it was still a bit far-fetched for us. But we were really committed to providing awareness of the impact of plastic pollution in Fiji and providing a practical and sustainable alternative to address plastic waste for Fijian communities. So we had a like young team at that point in time, and the concept of providing a hub or an outlet to address plastic waste was really far-fetched, because obviously the resources required to begin such operations is not forthcoming, especially like if you're in a developing country like Fiji. So doubts also set in on the level of impact that we would make in our capacity as young people. And we I don't know, like, because the issue of plastic pollution is so big in Fiji, we couldn't ignore it. And this like the continuous image of us seeing waste being dumped at the ocean, beside the roadside, and all this in like in villages, even in urban areas, it just helped clear our doubts and replace it with a sense of responsibility. We had to see opportunity and not a problem, and we knew that blaming people on who was responsible and writing to and waiting for the government to take action was our creative energy being wasted. So we took the initiative, and our efforts then were transformed into the establishment of Precious Plastic Fiji, and this gave our vision a sure sense of identity and direction, I would say.
Precious plastic you said it's a global movement. Do you also get support from other precious plastic hubs?
Yes. We are connected. All the precious plastic hubs throughout the world are connected via their online, online page. So we can collaborate, we can ask for helps. There are precious plastic groups, precious plastic groups in different parts of the world, which are more well established than us, who are already developing a lot of like new and innovative type of products via the molds that they have. So, and we have created a precious plastic market as well online. So in the market space, all the precious plastic organizations, if they have created a metal mold which is perfect for a particular item, they sell it at the marketplace, and then different precious plastic hubs from around the world are able to buy those metal molds, which will make our work easier instead of us creating it locally, and then using that to make new products using the plastic.
Okay, so
we have a really big collaborative space online.
Everyone could could start a precious plastic hub, right?
Yes, anywhere you can. Any city of the world, anywhere on the globe, you can start Precious Plastic. It's an open source platform. So you can even build the machines that are needed to upcycle plastic wherever you're located, just as long as you find the necessary equipment to build those machines. In Fiji, we could build one machine, but the problem with the other machine, a shredder, was that we required metal teeth. That is sharp metal teeth that is used for grinding, and then we had to order that online because we couldn't source that locally.
Okay, so there are like open source I don't know how to say that in English, but open source plans, and you can make your own machines. But they also sell machines that either hub managed to create, but then you guys decided to turn it into a social enterprise locally.
Yes, to make it to sustain our work because it's a non-profit. So we had to sustain our work one way or the other, and this worked out perfectly.
How old were you when it started?
I was 24, 5, 6, 7, 24 years old when it started.
Okay. And is Precious Plastic, because you had this frustration with WWF, is it gone with the work that you are doing with Precious Plastic?
Yes. So one of the great things that we are able to do by setting up a hub in Fiji is provide a platform for all the organizations that carry out cleanup campaigns to then sort out the plastic waste and then supply it to us where we upcycle plastic waste. So this works out really well in terms of sustainability of the work. Okay. And also before we started with Precious Plastic, when we're thinking of like the solutions, what we did with WWF was we collected large amounts of rubbish from cleanup campaigns and then used this to create unique forms of artwork, which were then displayed in public arenas during occasions such as the Fiji Earth Hour celebrations. The reason for this is because we believed that art is one of the most creative and visible forms of communication that can highlight current global concerns, such as the climate crisis, in a unique way. And a visual message, makes it more appealing. And we also believe that this in turn has a stronger cognitive impact in changing mindsets as compared to complex data or information which may often get ignored. And the reason why this worked really well was because, and we were able to gain momentum as a result, is because art is incorporated into the cultural system in the Pacific. That's why it's a very effective form of activism here.
How was it received by the Fijian public?
It was very well received. I'll just give you an example, and this is why I believe that young people in Fiji and throughout the world can be instrumental in policy change. So in early 2000, what was it? I think 16. Major Ban the Plastic campaign was led by young people, and I was part of this as well. And this led again the support from CSOs throughout the country. It called on the complete phase out of single-use plastics in Fiji. And the campaign then saw the government in its 2017 national budget announce steps to completely phase out single-use plastics by 2020. The government also implemented a 10 cents levy on each single-use plastic that had increased to 20 cents in the 2018 budget announcement. And the reason for this was to discourage consumers from using single-use plastic and increase the awareness for recyclable bags. So early this year, Fiji completely phased out the use of single-use plastics with less than 50 microns in thickness. So this was an initiative and effort led by young people in Fiji.
So it's funny because you were telling earlier that you didn't want to focus solely on policy change because it's like use of energy and stuff for something that doesn't change, but you still managed to come back to that now that you've been doing work with organizations, with young people.
Yeah. No, I think policy change is a very fundamental part of this as well. But my work, because I'm part of so many organizations, and I've also represented Fiji at international platforms like the Conference of Party. I realized, and I was part of the Oceans Working Group. I realized that plastic pollution is an issue that's usually absent in these sort of discussions. So this is where policy comes in, and it's very important because the land sources of plastic pollution have for a long time been overlooked and are now the object of soft law only. And soft law meaning agreements which are not legally binding. So the regulation of plastic debris from land-based sources is a substantial gap within the international policy framework. So when I because of my work in Fiji and the experience I have, when I am asked to represent the country or the region in these sort of platforms, in ocean-related platforms, in plastic pollution-related platforms, I put out two options. I put out like options that are available to strengthen the current international framework. One of which is to adopt a international treaty regulating plastic pollution from land-based as well as sea-based sources, which is absent at the moment. And then we also need to amend existing international instruments and create a more coordinated and comprehensive legal framework, which then can trickle down to national level policy actions that then later on become the mechanisms for steering action.
How do you become the representative of your country at the conference of party? and how did that happen?
Let me be specific. I was the youth representative.
Yeah, no, I guess.
As part of the government.
Yeah. How does that it's still huge, right?
Oh, it's so huge. Like when I was informed, because I was driving my car and I almost had an accident because I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's such a big thing, and then being that young and then going to an international platform like this, my goodness. Yeah, I think it took almost a week for it to sink in, but a wonderful opportunity nonetheless.
Did you apply or just people like they headhunted you?
It was based on recommendations, and then based on the recommendations, the government, the Ministry of Economy, carried out their whatever the process is in vetting, and then they called for an interview. They found out about the work that I was engaged in Fiji locally. So you have to be engaged in grassroots level work or whatever work, but someone who's actively engaged in the area of environmental science and policy and community work. And so they thought that I would be the best fit to be the youth rep from this country.
It was for which COP?
It was for COP24 and the COP24 and COY14, which is the Conference of Youth, 14th Conference of Youth.
Oh, so 2 years ago.
Right? Yeah, 2 years ago.
Where was it?
Poland, Katowice.
Oh. Okay, so you go to the COP, and then what do you need to do there?
Oh my goodness. I wish I was. I wish I was like had a like pre-COP training where I understood the different articles and the processes and all that. Because when I went to COP, like I felt completely lost. So on my way there, on the flight, I was reading on all the regional policies in Fiji because I knew that I was part of the oceans team. So I was reading up all the oceans-related policy and the regional frameworks and the gaps and the national adaptation plans, and just to like update myself on the policies that are relevant.
Homework.
Yeah, but then when I went to COP, it just felt like a completely different area. It can be really intimidating, especially for someone like coming from the South Pacific, like a young person from growing up on the islands. Suddenly you're in between like this international conference between so many countries and like decisions which impact us on an individual level. And then I was reading all these. It's extremely jargon heavy. Like these arenas are extremely jargon heavy. So then I would be told like SUBSTA session is taking place on this date and this time. You have to be there. And I was like, like so many like things would be bombarded towards me, and I would like, what's SUBSTA? And then I had to like quickly Google like what SUBSTA meant, which means the subsidiary body for scientific and technological advice. And then I had to like keep writing it on my notebook, like little notebook I had. And by the like end of first week, my notebook was full. So I had to like get another notebook. But all in all, I think it was a really how do I say this? It was a really constructive trip. Like it built my confidence because I met young people from all over the world who were extremely inspiring. I met some young kids even from Africa, and the way they spoke, like younger than me, but they've accomplished so much in their own country and carried out big processes. I met the I saw that the minister for youth from Malaysia is actually a young person. I think he is the same age as us, and he's a minister in a country like Malaysia. So like all of this, like getting to know, meeting these sort of people, like really was a boost, confidence booster. And then this also gave impetus for me to come back to my country and to do the work that I do now, because it just went to show that nothing is impossible. I think we limit ourselves in our own mind before we limit our own selves before anything else does. So yeah, it's a space really conducive to growing if you're willing to learn.
What were you supposed to do at the COP? Like, so you attend all these sessions. Are you there to learn and get inspired from all the young people, or do you have a role?
No. That was not the purpose to get inspired. That's a side. The purpose, the main goal of COP24 was to adopt a package implementing the rules for the Paris Agreement, which was called the Katowice Rulebook. So my purpose there was to support the other government officials in terms of highlighting points from the regional and the national legislations and the adaptations plan. And I went there as a support person for the government, but then at the same time I was also tasked to represent the country in all the youth spaces and youth sessions that were taking place. And because of this, I joined Yango, which was the official youth constituency of the UNFCCC. And then when I joined Yango, then I took part in a lot of sessions as well, and represented the country in different panel sessions that they organized, as I did at APCW. I think, I did. I organized. I was part of 3 panels organized by Yango at APCW, where we first met.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was selected by UNFCCC to attend APCW.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that story. Oh, okay. Oh, I mean, it's funny. It's I'm interviewing Hita from Yongo.
Yeah. Ethan and I are good friends.
Okay, yeah. So she'll be the next guest after you.
Oh my god! Oh my goodness! These people are. I look up to them, so I'm wondering if this was a good choice for you to get me on board. I don't think I'm at their level at all.
No, you are. Okay, yeah. Okay, so you went to Poland. Basically, you represent the youth voice and also, Fiji at the same time. So that's quite huge. And COP and COY, where it happened at the same time?
COY took place a week before COP started.
Okay, so you mentioned that you were one of the founding members of the Alliance for Future Generations also. So this happened after Precious Plastic.
This happened at the same time as Precious Plastic, not after. Because
difficult.
Yeah, the reason is it's not difficult. It's just that I don't know. Like it was like a time where young people just started, we just started empowering ourselves with the solutions. And I wanted to be part of this, this part of this movement that makes a difference. And we did the plastic campaign was led by young people from Alliance for Future Generations. And as a result of that, we've been instrumental in policy change in Fiji, as I mentioned before. So the Alliance for Future Generations, because Precious Plastic targets plastic pollution, but the Alliance for Future Generations was set up due to serious concerns on the marginalization of youth voices and youth representation within national, regional, and international spaces. We face I would say, in certain, not at COP altogether, but in certain arenas at COP, the challenge that we face was the what do you call that? The tokenism. So that even in national, it's a very common in national and regional spaces as well, because the traditional forms of discrimination against younger people in Fiji and the Pacific often linked to age and gender. Young people's views are often taken on board due to the country having signed some international treaty to this effect. However, the inclusion of these voices often remain as tokenistic. I think there is also a hesitancy for tradition and culture-based institutions within Fiji to trust young people with leadership within traditional and cultural contexts because of the underlying assumption that elders know better. So tokenism was definitely a large challenge in this regard. And our approach to this issue was that we made sure after AHG was set up that in all the work that we do, the most important coherence lens we use is the impact on the furthest behind. So meaning that no policy should be decided by any representative in Fiji on a national level, on a regional level even, or even an international level, without the full and direct participation of members of the group affected by that policy. So what we do is we ensure that the most vulnerable and young people are not only consulted, but they are part of the development, implementation, and the monitoring process. Just give you an example, like recently we organized a human rights and climate change workshop as equal partners with the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights in Fiji. And we did this, we were part of the development, implementation, and also a part of the monitoring process for this workshop. So we build and strengthen capacities of youth to lead their own activities and participate as equitable partners with adults. This is the work that we do AFG. We have managed to create visibility and respect for youth voices by bringing them to the forefront together with that of women, LGBTQI community, and also those with disabilities and rural youth. And I think, like in terms of the work that we've carried out, my team and I have consistently undertaken various education and awareness social activities, such as coastal mangrove planting. I think we've planted close to 50,000 mangroves to date around Fiji. We've also organized climate festivals in partnership with the 350 Pacific and 350 Fiji. So we leverage on the networks to organize a national climate strike and also workshops and trainings and other series of public advocacy events. Yeah, so these are publicized and promoted, and this helps create visibility. The outcome for that is that in less than a year of its setup, IFG has more than 400 members. This includes regional members and more than 2,000 effectively engaged young people around the country, passionately supporting every sustainable development activity we undertake.
Wow. It's a regional Pacific initiative.
It's a Fijian-led initiative, but we have set up a online platform with Pacific leaders.
Okay. So I have so many questions in my head, but when you were looking, because you were telling me you were looking at, you were just exploring the internet, and you were like, okay, it's when you realize actually young people have a big power. Is there something specific that made you realize this, or it's just many different resources?
It was specific. It was a plastic solution developed by a kid, I think in Europe, if I remember correctly. And he created this device which would collect plastic waste from the oceans. So that was the thing that that made me realize that we have the potential within us to make a difference here in Fiji.
Okay. And how was the AFG? How did you start that? Like, did you just gather some friends and you were like, okay, let's do something?
So this was led by my good friend Lavatana Langi Seru. And he approached me and he approached one of my other friends, and then he shared his and he said that he wants in order to give this vision life, he wants us to be a part of it, and to take this forward. And he told us the opportunity and the impact that we would have as young people. So he came with he had a strategy in mind, and because I got to know previous work, he led a few workshops that I was part of. I believed in him and his vision, and so that's why I decided to get on board with it. So both Langi and Davila and Komal and I, four of us were the founding members for AFG. And now after 4 years, it has become the biggest youth-led movement on sustainable development in Fiji.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a beautiful story. I mean, you started, like 4 or 5 people, and now it's the biggest movement. I'm wondering, like, how did you ever had this ambition to be the largest youth-led movement, or it just happened?
It just happened because the thing is, ambition is never about how big we are for us. Ambition is the impact we make and how big the impact is. That's where our ambitions lie. And because we started addressing grassroots level work and grassroots level community, our approach was sort of like bottom up. We had a bottom up approach, and this started creating waves and started, making an impact nationally around the country. And yes, sorry, what's your question again?
Yes, even me, I'm not sure. No, I'm just wondering, like, what's the secret?
Oh yeah, the secret that I believe is having people who are sincerely passionate. If you go on social media nowadays, like with any movement that goes on around the world, for example, I just gave like Black Lives Matters, the movement, it gained worldwide attention. And then suddenly, like everyone thinks that the way to advocate for Black lives is by putting up a black post on their social media, and suddenly like they've made a huge difference. But they don't realize that it takes so many years of hard work and passion and like commitment towards this cause to be able to make a difference. So being an activist is not an easy thing. You have to be sincerely committed to the cause and genuinely passionate about creating a difference in society as a whole. And this is sort of the the legacy that we end up leaving behind. So it all comes together. It's all connected in one way. So the secret to any movement, I think, becoming successful, I would say, not big but successful, is sincere commitment.
Do you think that's enough?
It's enough to start. That's what I would say. AFG has, to this date, never like Alliance Future Generations, we haven't received any funding, but we still managed to become so big and create such a large impact. And the reason for this is because we work in partnerships with different organizations, where their objectives align with our strategic plan. But with Precious Plastic Fiji, in order to make this into a reality, because we needed to create machines, set up a hub, we had to apply for funds to make it happen. So I think it's a very subjective, I think, in different scenarios, because in a developing country like Fiji, we get support from government. We can get support from government as well. But the thing is that we do need support to collectively create an impact.
Yeah, so commitment and passion, but by engaging other people to the cause, by engaging 400 New volunteers to the cause. Okay. And in the other podcast, what I found interesting is that one of the first thing you said is that you said I'm an introvert, but that's really one of the first thing you said. So I'm wondering like
How did I get out of my comfort zone?
no, I mean, like being an introvert means you take your energy by, and it's like speaking with, being with people takes energy, but I guess you need to speak to a lot of people if you have 400 volunteers, if you do all this beach cleanup, if you do like all of that.
Oh yeah, true.
How
So
do you find a balance?
self-care is very important, and I'm glad that you brought that point up, because and we're sort of raising the awareness in regards to this as well, like self-care amongst activists. So we all have our different what do you call activities that we engage in or doing. I would take moments to myself and sort of like like think and put everything, align everything mentally by isolating myself for certain periods of time. And I think it's very important that we develop a regular sleep routine as well, aim for healthy diet and all of these things while we carry out work, engage with communities. Um, yeah, and exercise regularly. I think if your body is healthy, then your mind is healthy. So that's the approach that I take.
Do you do something specific to reflect?
I meditate. Awkward talking about it because yeah,
Why is it awkward?
I don't know. I just because I'm an introvert. That's why.
Okay, so meditation, good sleep, sports, good food, healthy diet. Right.
Yeah, but I think as it's an introvert, I would also say that a mindful conversation, like like we don't. I don't run away from all conversations. If a conversation is intriguing and mindful, then that sort of uh, creates energy. Like for example, like right now, I feel very comfortable talking to you. So I don't feel like after this, I wouldn't feel drained as much.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
When did you finish your university?
I finished it in 2019.
Okay, so you were having the Alliance, Precious Plastic, University. You were people were
Yeah,
studying it.
everything at once. That's why it took a long time for me to finish my studies as well, because I was so actively and heavily engaged with the work that I was doing in Fiji. But because it was meaningful to me, I didn't mind. And that's this work that I'm doing right now. And even before finishing my studies, sort of aligned with my how do I say this, my career goal.
What is your career goal?
So I would say my career goal is to contribute to the equitable and sustainable development of my country and its people through work that is focused and practical, and where my skills can be applied in the most productive way that I think not only develops my own capabilities, but also enhances the opportunities and the goals of the people that I serve.
And what else do you need to do to achieve that? Because I feel like it's what you are doing already.
Uh, what else do I need to do to achieve it? I don't know. Like maybe like I would say that what else do I need to do? I would say I need to walk towards a point where I can have a bigger impact.
Okay.
So maybe I don't know. I don't wanna I don't know if I should say it right now, but I have a plan.
Okay, that sounds mysterious but interesting. You'll be the head of state of Fiji soon. It's what I understand from.
We have to dream big. They say shoot for the stars, or shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you land among the stars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this quote. So I invite you again when you have a kid and when you are the head of state.
By then I will invite you to my own podcast.
Oh, please. So, so you had this life-changing story when you were 10 years old. I'm wondering, what is a life-changing story of your 20s?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There's so many. I don't know if I would pinpoint like one particular event. But yeah, like even like visiting this family yesterday, which gave me like which made gave me an awareness of like my own privilege. I think these things like have an impact on your life on a like colossal scale. Like I'm not disconnected from my own privilege, and as a result of this event, like me going and meeting people, working with them in rural communities, helping them out, it impacts you on a personal level, because like when I come home, I don't waste food, I don't waste water. Even when I'm walking in the public, and even if I'm walking in the city or town, and then I hear a tap on somewhere, water leaking somewhere, I go and close it. Like, even though, I don't have to do it, but I just do it because water is being wasted. So these things, I think, gradually, or like like have an impact on you. Funny moment in my 20s. I think it's more to do with love, which I shall not get into.
Okay. People want to know, right?
Yes, I'm single.
On which side is your phone? Okay, on the right side.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying all this stuff on your podcast, and then you'll bring Hita next. My goodness.
Yes, I will send the recording to her.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so guys.
Yeah, but this is interesting. This is fun.
So everyone, you can open a Precious Plastic Hub, and you can send some love messages to Raid.
Yes. Oh, I mean, not in that sense, but yes. We need to spread more love and kindness in this world.
Yes, and big smiles, big Fijian smiles.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yes. I invite all the listeners to Fiji as well.
Oh, but I think we all want to go to Fiji, I mean, in France at least.
Oh yeah, this is
you say Fiji, and everyone is, have this, I don't know, paradisiac image in your head.
I mean, that is Fiji.
So coming back on our topic before all that.
Yeah, I feel like I've covered so much, like all the different organizations and what we do.
Did you ever doubt, like, I cannot, I'm doing too many stuff, I'm gonna die, or I cannot, I'm not gonna be able to make a difference because climate change, plastic is so big?
That's a really good question. With regards to doing a lot, I was doing that in the beginning, but then I started managing my time wisely, and as a result, I was part of volunteering for a lot of other organizations as well. But then I sort of came out of that, and then I was focusing on the organizations that I could have the biggest impact with. So that was Alliance for Future Generations and Precious Plastic. Even with WWF, as I mentioned before, I'm no longer actively volunteering, but I do support them whenever they need support. You asked about the size of the problem, eh? So it can get overwhelming, but if the tide is to be definitely turned, then everyone has to play a role in this work. It relates to the future of not just, it relates to our own survival. It relates to the future of basically the future of the planet. So we have to play a part because there's no silver bullet and no single activity can turn like the clock. And this is something that I said in my TED talk as well, that the usual saying goes that it's never too late to start, but I say that it's never too early.
I didn't read the book, but there is one book called Designing Your Life, which is about how to see your life as a design thinking process. So you always prototype things, actually. If you do a job that you hate, it's okay. It's just an experiment, and you learn from that experiment, and you refine your job search, etc. And one sentence in this book is, it's never too late and it's never too early.
That's great. What's the book called?
Designing Your Life.
Designing Your Life. Nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I think I thought about, because then you can use the two, two parts. And yeah, what else do you do which is not related to climate change or plastic waste?
Okay, so I am also a committee member of 350 Fiji, which is the local node to the global 350.org movement. So we organized the climate festival in Fiji in relation to the global climate strikes that was led by Greta Thunberg. And we localized it in the sense of a festival because protest is not... we feel like the way to have a bigger impact in the Pacific and its people is not through a protest, but through a festival where we incorporate arts as the means to advocate on the issue of sea level rise and climate change. And the most recent thing that we did with the 350 Fiji was that we set up a community fridge we set up Fiji's first community fridge in Suva. So this was our way of tackling food insecurity as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. And the entire community is what truly powers the community fridge and its purpose. So what we do is we have a lot of there's this surge of backyard gardening in Fiji. So if people have a lot of vegetables and foods and crops that they have grown, they can come and put it in the fridge for families that are desperately in need, and families take what they need and leave what they don't. And that's been a big success so far. And now we're planning to set up a community fridge in the western part of the country as well.
Wow, great. You got inspiration from other nodes who did that?
We actually got inspiration from community fridge group that's established in the US. It's called Free 99 Fridge. So That's why we got the inspiration for the community fridge.
I think it's so cool because you are part of all these international networks, and you have this bigger picture where you can see all the cool stuff that has been happening in every country, and you bring everything to Fiji.
Yeah, localize it, and at the same time empower young people. And it's such a great, such a beautiful process actually. And this is what this is what continually inspires me as well. So I don't have to seek inspiration outside of me because it comes from the work that I do. And I think this is one of the also another key factors to success, I think, is when you are continually inspired by the work that you do yourself.
I guess you are inspired by the work that you are doing, but also by when you're the impact, but also by all the. You were saying the sentence that I love this sentence too. Like you are the average of the 5 people that you've spent the most time with, and I guess you are really you really admire also the all your co-founders and everything.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, like it's a team of like really dedicated people, like sincerely dedicated. I put sincere, I'm putting stressing on the sincerity part because you have to be genuinely committed to the cause. And I feel like a lot of people who are like, just give an example of even Shomi that you brought on as a guest earlier. It's because of our own personal experience with her mom that gives, that strengthens her commitment to the cause. So we have all, like the people who have made up our communities, we have all gone through things in our personal lives. We have members who are come from villages which are under the threat of sea level rise. So like they are all committed because they all have and are experiencing a direct of either climate change or some other social issue. And so this is where our commitment stems from.
Yeah, you were affected yourself by the issue and you see an injustice and you want to fix it.
Yes.
So we spoke about the fridge, Solidarity Fridge. What is another dream you have of something you want to bring and localize it in Fiji?
I'll have to think about it. I may have an answer, but I just can't think about it right now because I feel like that's too much pressure.
Okay. I'll let you think. Okay, I think we are approaching the end, so I have two questions that I always end. But it's the most deep questions.
Oh my goodness.
I will rephrase them a bit. So we spoke about the 10-year-old. We spoke about all the 20s life-changing moments. So now let's flash forward in the future. Let's imagine you are 80 years old.
80?
Yes.
80.
80.
Oh my God. Do I want to live that long?
Yeah, if you can be the longest head of state in power in Fiji. No, but like how do you want people, like, everyone you've met in your life, like how do you want people to remember you for?
Oh wow. Wow. Dude, that's really deep. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. I don't know, like my answer might change in future, but at the moment, I think I would say that I have no desire or quest to do something special or spectacular so that I will be recognized or remembered for. That's not my, like, it sort of implies like I'm doing stuff to be remembered for, but I don't know if that's like for me, it's wrong for me to perceive it as such. But what I do, and I only hope that the lives of the people that I have touched in a positive way remember me for the individual acts they have experienced from knowing me, and using not me but my walk as a source of inspiration. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. No, because it makes us come back to when you speak about commitment and passion. I think really feel that you are really passionate about all the cause you are working for. But even passionate is not strong enough. I think you need to look in the dictionary to see what. Now it feels you really. No, I think you're the kind of guy, and you will not stop until the problem is solved. So yeah, no, I can't wait to see what is your plan.
I can't wait to see it as well.
And how would you describe yourself in 3 hashtags?
Myself? Oh my goodness. Okay, number 1, Pacific Power. Number 2, Be the Change. Number 3, Precious Plastic Fiji. Because I'm like slowly getting to be known in Fiji as the plastics guy. So might as well own it.
So ride the plastic guy.
Yeah, the plastic Fijian.
Just a random question I just had, but like when you, I don't know, when you meet people in Bangkok or in Poland or anywhere, and you say you are from Fiji, what is the first thing people say usually?
I think in international conferences they are aware of Fiji, like COP, because Fiji played a big role at COP23. So in that sense, they are aware of it. And it's surprising to me actually, because like when I met Shomi for the first time, and then I introduced myself to Shomi, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I know Fiji. I've been to Fiji," and I was shocked. Like a lot of people, even Linka has been to Fiji, so people have been to Fiji. So yeah, but I mean, in other places like when I went to India, for example, no one knows where Fiji is. So you have to tell them, talk about New Zealand. They don't even know where New Zealand is. So then you have to talk about Australia, and they're like, Australia. So then you describe where Fiji is located. But then the same was in Poland. Like, like countries that are really far away don't really know where Fiji is on the map.
So okay, let me rephrase the previous question to, how do you want people to remember Fiji for, or to know Fiji for?
As the country which saved the world.
Okay, I think we can understand a bit your plan. Okay, nice. Okay.
Wow. No, you save the Pacific, you save the world. So many countries in the Pacific, the existence is threatened by sea level rise. So if we all work together and prevent these countries and the history of the people from drowning, we basically save the world, because it's an issue that affects all of us.
Now in France, climate change is like, I felt like in France, not many people can relate to climate change, because we are fortunate that France is not a country which is too much exposed to the
environmental impacts.
Yes, terrible effects of climate change. And like Fiji and Pacific Islands, like what is, maybe that's why you are so, I mean, probably that's why you are so no, that's why you are so committed to this cause, right? Because you've been relating to this your whole life. It's, for you, it's unnatural not to think about it.
Yes. Yeah.
So for me, I was always interested in more social issues when it comes to poverty, quality education, but for some reason, I never really relate to environmental and climate issues. But the first time I got a shock was in Hong Kong, and it started with the plastic issue. I first realized like how bad it was, and in Hong Kong there's 3 landfills which are going to be full like soon. Just to say, my climate awareness was born a few years ago, and now I'm trying to catch up with everything. And I think the plastic issue is something that starts to be more mainstream, which is good.
Yeah, you brought up a really important point. I mean, I understand, like, if a person faces like poverty, if their day is spent on like getting food or putting food on the table for their family, on people who are living below the poverty line, they are not bothered about climate change, a bigger issue like climate change, because their immediate needs supersede that of something that will something like climate change. But at the same time, these sort of social and environmental injustices, they overlap, and then they are exacerbated by different issues. For example, COVID-19. And so that's why I believe that there's no climate justice without racial justice, without economic justice. So all of these things, they intersect and disproportionately affect certain communities.
Is that something you always knew?
I don't. No, I would say no. Not something that I always knew.
Yeah, something you realized after
Realized, yeah.
your experiences.
Yeah.
I asked you a question earlier. I forgot what it was. I just remember that you needed to think about it. What was it again?
I don't want to remember. Because I don't think I can answer it. Oh my God, what was the question?
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, they can wait 10 years when you come back for the second episode. Cool. Just to end, where can people contact you if they want to reach out to you? Is there any way people can support you? Can people contact you where?
Okay. So you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can follow us at Alliance for Future Generations Fiji and Precious Plastic Fiji, and also 350 Fiji. You can email us for collaborations, join our team via the link on our Facebook page. And if you want to donate to our cause and support us, we have the link on our website, which is currently being set up.
Cool. I'll put all the links in the episode note. I'll put your TED Talk, the other podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Right is single, so and inviting everyone to Fiji.
Oh my God.
Cool. No, thank you so much, Raid. It was a great conversation.
No, thank you, man. I think you're a great host. I felt really comfortable. Yeah. And thank you for doing this. Like I mentioned to you before, like before you started recording, that you are documenting a part of history. So this is really beautiful. And thank you. I feel honored to be invited as a guest to the Lifeline podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to the amazing story of Raid. Do reach out to him if you enjoy this episode, or if you even plan to go to Fiji someday. Of course, please do share this episode with your friends. That's the best way to support Lifeline podcast. See you next time.